I want to go through some Jewelcrafting builds today, but before I get into the builds, I need to say a few words. First of all, this is the Midnight Beta. We are mere weeks away from Midnight's launch. Stuff might still get changed. I'm pretty confident that they won't change anything significant, but it was time we started talking about the builds. Secondly, there will be chapters. I will talk about different builds that you can do for Jewelcrafting. And the whole point of this video is for people to have an easier time deciding on how they want to expand into different spec trees for their specific professions. And it only covers season 1, because at the end of season 2 you will be able to max out your profession entirely. So yeah, my focus here is to divide these segments to the season 1, because that's where most planning is needed and the knowledge points are set in stone. One simple mistake might ruin your profits, but yeah, that's it. Just be warned about everything, and let's get into the builds. My favorite first, the Master Crafter. The Master Crafters rely on crafting orders and resourcefulness procs to make gold. You need all of the skill available to you as a Master Crafter, because if you even lack 1 point of skill, you won't be able to guarantee the highest quality of gear. And you don't want to rely on concentration to be able to craft the highest quality of gear. That would just limit your profits. So you need to max out the main tree of alluring accessories, because it will give you 1 skill per point that you spec into it. So 30 points here will give you 30 skill. Do not pay any attention to those that will tell you that the last few perks here will give you ingenuity and crafting speed and less concentration. That is a bonus, but we're spending 10 more points here to be able to get the most skill out of this spec tree. Okay? These resourcefulness procs are great. This ingenuity is useless, but we want the skill. So even if you don't want to go for the tools and accessories here, you also need this one. When you have maxed out the main one, you have a few choices. First of all, I strongly recommend that you get a tool crafter for your tools and accessories, and entirely skip this on your main gear crafter, because 40 points is a lot, and you need to decide between these two builds here. I personally make an alt for the tools and accessories, only get 30 points here and 40 points here, and just have that craft all of the tools and accessories and spend that one's artisan moxie on tools and accessories, not the main one, and spend most of the main one's knowledge points on rings and necklaces. So in scenario A, that I'm a gear crafter, I will only spec into the rings, max them out. Now I can craft any ring in the game at the highest quality and grab all of the orders. Then and only then, when I have maxed out the rings, I will move to the amulets, max that one out, and be done with this entirety of alluring accessories. So as a main gear crafter, scenario A of Master Crafter, you will be only maxing out these 3 nodes. You will skip the crafting kosher, something like that, I'm not sure, but you will be skipping the tools and accessories. So apparently it was couture, yeah, something like that. I'm not gonna pronounce that again, but on scenario B you will only be speccing into these 2 nodes here. Then after you're done doing that, you need all of the resourcefulness procs that you can get, whether you decided to go with scenario B or scenario A. For you to get the most resourcefulness possible, you need to come to thoughtful throughput, spend 5 points to open a sub-specialization here called skilled savings, and then you need to max this one out, because this is the main node that will give you your resourcefulness. The other sub nodes here are pretty useless to you as a master crafter, because this one will give you multi-craft and this one will give you ingenuity and less concentration cost. So basically this is just useless to a master crafter. You only need 5 here to unlock this one, and you need 30 points here to get the most resourcefulness possible. So make this your second priority. Just to sum up, this will be your main build as a master crafter that focuses on gear. These 3 right here maxed out, 5 here and 30 here. This is scenario A, where you only want to craft the gear. Whether you decide to later on to expand into tools and accessories are an option that you can now expand into. But even if you don't want to do that and you are doing that on an alt, your scenario B will look like this: 70 knowledge points right here, and 5 here and 30 here. So this will be your scenario B. The alt is only crafting tools or accessories, or better you want to just make a tool and accessories craft and then move into rings and necklaces. This is how your scenario B looks when the first build on that profession is complete. The next one I want to talk about is the supplier, that relies on crafting large quantities of reagents and putting them on the auction house. Now again, we are not relying on concentration, we are relying on skill here to craft the reagents at the highest quality and to be able to guarantee those stuff without concentration. So take that into account. The first thing you need to do, you need to max out the entirety of proficient processor here, because again, this main tree will give you 1 skill for every single point that you spend in it. So just spend the 30 points here and get that done. Next, we don't want to mess with the crushing system and the prospecting system here. You can look at the supplier as the prospector too, but I want to divide that into a different build. You can first move into the reagent build, then choose to go into the prospecting build, or go into the prospecting build and later on expand into the reagents. This is entirely up to you. But as the supplier that only relies on creating basic and optional reagents, you need to then max out material manufacturer here, spend 30 points here again to unlock everything. Then you have a choice between optional reagents here or basic reagents here. This is entirely up to you. Optional reagents are used for crafters and buyers to just spice up the gear and the stuff that they want in a specific way, but the basic reagents are used in all of the professions. Personally, I like the boldly basics better because I think that's where the most profits are at. A lot of people won't bother with the optional stuff. They are quite great and they might end up being a very profitable thing, but I always prefer the safe choice first and then the risky one. Therefore, I recommend that you get the basics first, and then after you have maxed out the basics, you move into the optional one. The knowledge point requirement here is the same as the Master Crafter. You will be spending 120 knowledge points to complete this build, the supplier build that relies on the reagents. You can then choose to move into, again, thoughtful throughput, 5 points here and all of the points that you can in the multi-craft tree, because you don't need ingenuity and concentration, so these two are practically useless. Then you can decide to either get resourcefulness for it, because more resourcefulness means more products here. So after you have maxed out the multi-craft, you can spend 10 more points on thoughtful throughput, get the resourcefulness, and max this one out. So as only reagent crafter, I strongly recommend that you spend 30 points on the resourcefulness, 30 points on the multicraft, 15 to open these two up, and on the proficient processor side, only the reagent crafting nodes, not the crushing and the prospecting one. When you have completed this, you can move into the prospector build. Now, this is something that I prefer, but if it was up to me and if I had the alt, I would make an alt for a reagent crafter and an alt for the prospector here. Let's get into the prospector build now. As a prospector, you're either turning ores into gems or turning gems into gem dusts by crushing them. Now, this is again one of those scenario A, scenario B type of things, but the choice is entirely up to you. Regardless of what scenario you wanna go through, you first need to max out proficient processor for those 30 points of skill. Because we want skill, we love skill. So 30 points in the proficient processor first, then you get a choice. You either need to max out crushing first or delve into the prospecting and get through all of those nodes. Now, prospecting is a very time consuming endeavor because only prospecting will need 150 points here. 5 nodes, every single one of them require 30 points for you to max them out. And you cannot move to the other one without maxing the previous one. So be warned, it is a very huge time investment. It is a build for itself. But crushing, on the other hand, only requires 40 points to max out. And gem dusts go for a lot at the beginning of the expansion. They will lose value as the expansion goes on. So again, the scenario A and scenario B type of thing is entirely up to you. You can then move to the other one when you have maxed out one of them. But for example, let's say you have two alts. Scenario A, I want my first alt to be the crusher. So I will spend 30 points here in the proficient processor and then 40 points in the crusher to be able to get the most out of the crushing. The entirety of that crusher will be maxed out in the proficient processor here, and to utilize more here on scenario A, you then again will move to thoughtful throughput. 5 points to unlock the resourcefulness and take that resourcefulness to its maximum. This will be your scenario A as a crusher, or then move into the prospector to be a prospecting build as a whole. So scenario A looks like this because you only need resourcefulness, crushing won't use multicraft, and you won't be relying on concentration, so only resourcefulness and the skill that we need. Scenario A is done, let's go to scenario B. In scenario B, after maxing out the proficient processor, you will go into prospecting pro. Now here you have two choices, and I will then again go with the safest one and say that you need to max out prospecting pro first, because every single point that you invest into this node here will work for all of the different ores regardless of the ore that you're prospecting. So that takes priority, right? This is the safest choice here, as opposed to just getting 10 here and then unlocking sub nodes and maxing them out. I strongly recommend that you max this one out first, because every single skill ups here will work regardless of the ore that you're using. Then you need to go into the sub nodes, and every single point that you invest in these different sub nodes will only work when you're prospecting that specific ore. So if you're spending all of your points into thorium treasure, you will get skill ups whenever you are prospecting dazzling thorium. If you're spending that into copper consumer, you will only get those skill ups when you're prospecting refulgent copper. You need to max all of these out, The order is entirely up to you. There's no way for me to tell you which one is the best, because on face value, on paper, thorium pressure, the dazzling thorium, is the rare ore that's supposed to be the most profitable one. But unless we see how the market reacts to all of these ores, we cannot come to a conclusion of which one of these will be the most profitable. So either wait a bit to see which one is the best, or just risk it. And the safest bet, if you're trying to risk it, will be the dazzling thorium here. Just get this one, max it out, because the main goal here is getting more Eversong diamonds whenever you're prospecting a certain ore. Be sure to max them out and then move to another one. And you need to max all of them out because you want to be a prospector. So just kindly move one by one and max every single one of those out. And that way, regardless of the ore that you're prospecting, you have a higher chance of finding Eversong diamond. And that's what you are looking for. After you have completed all of this, your main prospector build on the proficient processor tab will be done. Then you can either go into crushing, get crushing first, or just skip the crushing and go to the thoughtful throughput here and get the resourcefulness again. Sorry, only 5 here. And max out skill savings. Again, both prospecting and crushing do not use multi-craft. So multi-craft is useless and you're relying on skill to get the most profit. So concentration again is useless to us. Resourcefulness here and your proficient processor here, and that just got deleted for some reason, not sure. Yeah, I didn't apply those. Let's move on. Another build I want to talk about is a gem cutting build, the bread and butter for the jewel crafting proficient. This one is the one that you create gems with and put on the auction house that everybody wants, those luxurious gems. And we are relying on skill, resourcefulness and multi-craft to amass a lot of profit. And it is one of the biggest specs ever. So this will probably take your entire season 1. Just be prepared for that. First of all, you need to max out the main tree because again, we love skill and this will give us skill to all of those gems that you want to craft, regardless of the color or the stats. Then you have a choice. You need to choose a stat and then invest all of your points into that one. Now the safest bet is always the ruby one, the red one. It is called Glorious Garnet now. It will give you critical strike, but again, this is the market thing. We just gotta wait and see which one will be the most profitable. But if I had to choose, I personally would choose the critical strike. Most people love critical strike, right? And then you need to max this one out, because this one will give you skill points to all of the red gems. Then you can just move into these sub nodes here and max them out. Whether you want to max out the masterful one, the quick one or the versatile one is entirely up to you. This is for those smaller gems that include a bit of a secondary stat as a continuation of the critical strike boost. Like you will get, let's say, the lapises here, not the blue ones. Let me get the garnets here. The flawless versatile garnet will give you 10 critical strike and 4 versatility at the first tier, and at the highest tier it will give you 12 critical strike and 5 versatility. This is those gems, so it is best for you to be able to guarantee all of the family of a certain color before moving on to the other one. You can skip these ones, get the amethyst ones, the purple ones, I think they are mastery, and craft them with the concentration, but that is not what I recommend. Personally, I recommend if you invest your knowledge points and time into a certain build, max everything out, then move to the other color. For example, if I was about to make a jewel crafter that is spec'd into gem cutting, I will max out probably the versatility one, because that would be the go-to for the PvPers, then the masterful one, and only when I have maxed out every single one of these, I would move to another color. Let's say purple. Let's say versatility, the blue ones, or haste, the green ones, and do this over and over for every different family of gems. You need to first max out the main one, then max out the subnodes. I will go through a concentration build for gem cutters later in the video, but if you want to rely only on skill, you need to max these ones out. I can also include another thing here where there is 4 different scenarios here that you will max out one color on one alt, one color on another alt, and this goes on for 4 alts. And for you to optimize that build to its fullest, you won't move into a second color, you will go into thoughtful throughput and max out multi-craft first, and only when you have completed the multi-craft, put 10 more points in the main tree and get the resourcefulness. This is also a possibility for all of those gem cutters out there. This will optimize the build to its fullest and you will get the most profits. But again, this is a very huge investment. This will probably take all of your season 1. So the options are there. You can decide for yourself what to do. Either max out the entirety of the glamorous gems, get every subnode. You need a lot of points. I mean, I cannot tell you how. Let me see how much is it. It is 100 there, and 130 here, and 90 here, and 90 here. 100. It takes around 300 knowledge points. I think 295. I'm not sure. 300 knowledge points to max just the glamorous gems. That's just a lot of knowledge points. But if you want to be that ultimate gem cutter that has access to everything, you gotta take every one of these. I will take this into 2 different versions. So as the ultimate gem cutter, this will be your main glamorous gems, and this will be your thoughtful throughput as the main ultimate gem cutter. Okay, the alternative version will look like this, as a specific certain color crafter. Like for example, on the video right now, I'm a specifically red gem crafter. Your knowledge points will look like this, and then after you have optimized a certain color completely, you can move into different colors. So the choice again is yours. You can either fully optimize one color and then move into other colors, or you can get every single color available to you and optimize them later on. I strongly recommend that you get the specific color stuff, because that is way easier as opposed to those 300 and it was 390, right? I cannot remember, to be honest. I've been talking for so long. But this will only require you to have 100 here and 75 here. 175 to optimize one family of gems, as opposed to that big thing that will take a lot of your knowledge points. This is the quickest one. I mean, if you do have the ult, I strongly recommend that you go this way and make one ult for each family of gems. That's gonna work wonders for you. But if you want to do it on one character, you have these two choices. Let me know which one you prefer in the comments. Let's move on. And the last build I want to talk about, or the builds that I want to talk about, are the concentration builds. And concentration by its nature is a volatile thing, and it cannot be easily calculated and be talked about because there's just an infinite ocean of possibilities when it comes to all Tommies and concentration builds. Now, one of the most common things that most concentration builds require is a lot of ingenuity. Therefore, on the thoughtful throughput, the safest bet for you is to get the whole main spec, then just get the calculated concentration, because the more ingenuity you have, if it procs, it will return more concentration to you, and you want as much as of the concentration as you can. These two are a must-have for your concentration builds. There is the debate that you should get certain recipes then opt into these ones, but I just wanted to tell you guys that these two are the most important sub-nodes for the concentration builds. Whichever recipe you decide to spend your concentration on, you need these two sub-nodes to optimize your concentration when crafting that thing. Just take that into account. This is the two nodes that you always could use regardless of the recipe that you're crafting. Now let's move on into different things that you can easily unlock and use your concentration on, and that will be worth your while and make a good profit out of. One of the best things that you can craft with concentration builds are the end game gems. When first you unlock glamorous gems, even without spending knowledge points in this tab, you can unlock one recipe. You don't need to spend anything. The first point here will give you a single recipe. Then, by spending 10 points, you can unlock another from a different family. And so goes on. This is the best way to unlock these certain recipes. Only by spending 30 points, you now have 4 in-game gems that you can craft with the concentration build at the highest quality. You can then, if you do have the knowledge points, spend more points on the main families and unlock more gem recipes to choose between the most profitable one and the one in demand. Or you can just opt in on another tab and go for another thing. On paper, concentration builds can work for anything, but personally I prefer the gems. But if you do decide to go the proficient processor way, you can spend 10 points here to unlock one subnode, then either opt for a concentration plus crushing thing, max this one out, and have a concentration crusher. That is a build that you can do. I'm not sure how it will perform, but it is one of the things that you can do. You can then again spend 10 points here and opt in for a concentration prospector without going into the subnodes of the prospector. That can also work. You can opt in for material manufacturer as a concentration build, but it doesn't give you anything. You won't be needing the skills that mostly comes from these nodes. Again, when it comes to concentration builds, there is no right or wrong answer. But if I were to personally make a Jewelcrafting concentration build for myself, I would definitely focus on 4 of these recipes because it only requires 30 points in the glamorous gems. Then I will put 60 points into ingenuity and concentration Then if I have excess knowledge points, I would get first multi-craft, and after I have maxed out multi-craft, I would get the resourcefulness. I mean, personally, I believe this is the best concentration build for an alt that I play like 15 or 20 minutes a week, because I will mainly be focusing on my main crafters. When the expansion launches, I won't have time to play those alts. There's just a lot of alts that I couldn't play. But if I were to make a concentration build, this is probably the best. Again, when it comes to alt armies and concentration builds, there is no right or wrong build. A lot of this stuff might work, and because the expansion has not released yet, we cannot conclude what version of these builds will be the most profitable one. And that's it. That was a long video. At the end of the video, I want to say that I do hope that you enjoyed the video, and if you did, leave a comment or a like below, and I will see you in another one. Bye bye.